Welcome back to Friendly Freethinker. I submitted an essay to the Humanist magazine. I'm not sure if they'll print it. Uh, and it's about my own personal journey to humanism, a humanistic outlook. And I use the idea of moving away from highways and streets to trails and paths, a little more natural kinds of um, ways to travel in life. And so I just thought I would kind of share a little bit of this essay with you. Um, See what you think. A Presbyterian minister, a Jewish rabbi, a Zen Buddhist priest, an evangelical professor, a Catholic priest. In their own way, each of these religious leaders became guides along my journey to humanism. My emergence from faith, what I sometimes call my personal exodus, can be framed as a natural kind of evolution from the hard paved roadways of religious experience to a more open, wider path and wilder path to free thinking. The uncertainties of a dusty, dirty trail felt more natural than the hot pavement of certainties and the right-of-ways. Well, the main road I traveled in my early years, was shared with my family's Presbyterian household. This fairly smooth road got bumpier when I was driven to my knees by Billy Graham, accepting his crisis Christ, the hour of decision. The momentum drove me to evangelical and even Pentecostal interchanges with no clear exit. Never traveling far from my home faith, the choice was clear because there was only one way, one choice, which was, of course, no real choice. No question, I was a Christian. Born on Christmas Day, born again into the church family, born again into the Lord's family. Well, as a curious high school kid, I became a leader of our church youth group and then active in Campus Crusade for Chris. Well, at least my Christ. But my soul tank apparently wasn't full yet. A friend took me to a Pentecostal church, and I got filled with the Spirit. Now I was gassed up with Jesus and filled with his holy breath. I guess my tires would be full of his breath. Well, choosing an evangelical Christian university in Seattle, I was determined to increase my knowledge of the Bible and build up my rock-solid faith. But little did I know that I would face one more conversion. I was saved, this is how I say it sometimes, I was saved by philosophy and exposure to world religions. The doors and windows of my nicely boxed faith were blown open as I discovered an unfamiliar landscape of ideas and questions and worldviews I had never considered before. Engaging great minds from the Christian Kierkegaard to the Jewish Martin Buber and the atheist Nietzsche, while meeting people with very divergent beliefs. All of this broke open new avenues for encountering something potentially greater than faith. Greater than faith. Wisdom. Wisdom. And this was happening in a conservative Christian school. After teaching an adult education course on world religions in my home church, the pastor suggested I attend a seminary, the one he went to, in California. One attraction was the school's connection to a whole consortium of seminaries in the Bay Area, So my mind continued to expand as I chose classes taught by Protestant and Catholic and Jewish and Buddhist professors. Yet it was outside the classrooms where my deeper education opened new paths. As an instructor in a private school for adults with physical and mental challenges, I found my Sunday mornings consisted of walking students to these innovative Catholic masses. The young priests presented models for inclusive gatherings where differences of belief didn't really matter. At the same time, while continuing my seminary studies, I began attending a welcoming Jewish synagogue that met on campus. And I took personal retreats at a Zen Buddhist farm on the coast where I learned the value of silence and simplicity and slow breathing. I'd come a long way from the one-stop shop of faith that I was exposed to as a young person. Well, unlike most of my classmates, my first call was not to a church. I became the first interfaith chaplain in a county jail near San Quentin Prison. After 10 years inside, I was released from the steel chaplaincy to a street chaplaincy, also directed by an interreligious coalition. See the pattern here? After another 10 years among urban refugees, we often call homeless people, I moved back to the Pacific Northwest to live for 3 years in a one-room cabin on an island. While building a trail system there, I wrote and published several nature meditation books and a collection of stories from my chaplaincy years. By this time, I was clearing my own path through life. Any divinity had evaporated into air or dissolved into the earth. Well, returning to California to marry my progressive minister wife, I abandoned anything supernatural. Initially taking a position as a shelter director overseeing a rotating shelter held in various churches and synagogues each night, I became a housing manager for independent seniors with an ecumenical organization. Well, since relocating to North Carolina and becoming a humanist celebrant, I've become an instructor in lifelong learning programs on several university campuses, teaching courses on free thought, humanism, and Christian nationalism. At the same time, I write 2 weekly newspaper columns on religion from a secular perspective. I continue to publish collections of my columns and essays while volunteering at a Planned Parenthood clinic. I often wonder, when I'm at the clinic, could I have been one of those protesters shouting harassment at women if I had never taken a different trail? I ask myself that all the time. Well, those faith leaders, this is how I wrap it up. Those faith leaders who encouraged me along the way may never know how much they inspired me to be a wiser human being who chose a path beyond faith. So that gives a encapsulation of my journey to humanism. And as always, I welcome your input, whatever comments you have to make about this story. So thank you. Take care.